Okay, so I think I understand now. In the active voice, the subject is the agent. They're doing something. But in the passive voice, they are being acted upon. They're not the agent. It's passive.
That's exactly right. You got it. And do you remember what verb is used in the passive voice? What helping verb?
Yes, werden.
Werden. That's correct. Okay, let's look at the basic components of the passive voice, and just to make sure that we got it. Okay, the passive voice. So we'll look at a sentence here. Die Flasche wird in die Tonne geworfen. And that's one that we had. Now, the first thing we're going to look is that first component of that. And do you know what that is?
That's the subject?
That is the subject. And what do we know about that subject?
It's passive. It's being acted upon.
Right. Very good. In other words, it's being acted upon, so it is not, just like you just said.
It's not the agent.
Not the agent. And then the second component we want to look at a little closer, we just talked about it, is the helping verb, and it is a form of werden. And the last part there, we talked about that too. That is known as?
The past participle.
Past participle, and it's always?
At the end of the sentence.
Ausgezeichnet. So, Alex, would you like to look at two more sentences comparing active and passive?
Ja, klar.
Ja, klar. Okay. So, let's have a look. We've got the active voice, and in this sentence, Erik blinkt die Pfandflasche zurück. And we're going to then have a passive voice version of this sentence. Now, in order to convert the active voice to the passive voice, we're going to have to take that object in the active voice and make it into what in the passive voice?
The subject.
The subject. So where's that going to go in our passive voice sentence? Here.
In the beginning.
In the beginning. So we're going to put that at the beginning. Die Pfandflasche. Now, a Pfandflasche is a bottle that you get something back for when you bring it back to the grocery store. A deposit bottle. And we've been talking about that, Alex, in this chapter. Die Pfandflasche. And what do you think is going to go next? Because this is a passive voice. What verb, what kind of verb is going to follow?
We're probably going to need some form of werden.
Going to need some form of werden. And let's see. Ah, you're right. Die Pfandflasche wird. And then we're going to have to end with something that comes at the end of all passive voice. And it is called the participle. And here it is, zurückgebracht.
Okay, but I noticed that the agent or the doer was not mentioned in the passive sentence. Can we mention it there too?
Yes, we can. Do you remember who the agent or the doer was in that sentence? What we can do is we can go back and have a look at it, okay? Okay, now let's look at that active voice sentence again. Erik blinkt die Pfandflasche zurück would be in English.
Erik brings the depositable bottle back.
Ja, sehr gut. So that's our active voice sentence. And in the active voice, of course, the subject is
Erik.
Is Erik, and he's the agent, right? So we're going to underline Erik there. What about the passive voice, though? The passive voice sentence was Die Pfandflasche wird zurückgebracht. And in English, that would be?
The depositable bottle is being brought back.
Right. And do we have an agent in the sentence?
No.
Someone's doing something? No, we don't. And that is actually common in a passive voice sentence. You don't have to have an agent in the passive voice sentence. That's why passive voice sentences are really good for not taking responsibility for something. For example, you can say mistakes were made, right? And no one knows who made the mistakes, but you can say that, and that's a passive voice sentence. But what about if we wanted to put the agent in here? Could we put the agent in here? Could we tell who did this if we wanted in the English sentence or the German sentence?
Yeah, in the English sentence, you would add by Erik at the end.
Right, so you can specify an agent. You could just put by Erik there. The depositable bottle is being brought back by Erik, and that way we know who did it. But that's not necessary. You don't have to have it in there, but if you want to put it in there, you could. Now, how would we do that in German?
After wird, you would add von Erik.
Von Erik. Yeah, so we got a von Erik, and that basically means the same thing, by Erik.